Well, hello, fellow adventure party. Come on in. I am your host, Jacob.
And I'm your co-host, Kurtis, sorry.
Oh, wait, no, we were already talking about this. We meant to be co-hosts. We're both co-hosts here.
No,
I said host. I just stepped all over what you were supposed to be. No.
You said it.
I did. I just shot myself in the foot here. I guess this is all my vote here. Welcome, everyone, to the Backyard Tabletop. If you are just joining us, Backyard Tabletop is where myself sits down with my good buddy Kurtis over here, and we talk Dungeons and Dragons as if we were in a backyard.
I just had the best idea.
You just had a best idea. What was your best idea?
I need to get a green screen behind me so I can make it look like I'm in my backyard.
That would be really fun, because then we could just keep rotating backyards, though, until you find, like, your dream backyard or something.
Yep.
I like that. We could even go to the point of, like, as the podcast goes, like, the day changes. So every time we cut back to you, it's a different time.
Yep.
I'm just going to put Skyrim behind you, and it just keeps changing locations.
just get like an exactly 1 hour time lapse of Skyrim, the world just drifting in time, and then just stick that behind me for the whole thing.
There has to be one out there.
Oh, there's plenty. You could just
I'm sure
strip one of those 1 hour calming Skyrim music videos off of YouTube and just use that video.
Yep. I'm coming for you. You better be watching out for your Skyrim
Yep.
videos these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Well, typically how we start out this podcast is I usually, at least lately, in our new system that we kind of have going here that seems to be working for us, I present a question to Kurtis and we talk about that for a while. Today's question is a little bit on the darker side of things, if you will, because we're going to get philosophical here, Kurtis. I mean, we can get as philosophical as we would like, personally.
I love philosophy.
I was drinking my tea and excuse me, that was hilarious. Philosophy. Today's question I really want to bring up and talk about is, what do you think is the most evil school of magic? And what do I mean by that? Well, because this is where I can really get philosophical, because I think the very first thing you have to do is, like, what is evil, right? Like, because theoretically, a school of magic is a school of magic, and you can do things with it, and how the person uses it is up to the interpretation of it being good or evil, right? It's kind of like a sword, right? You could use the typical thing, a sword. It can be a tool or it can be a weapon of war. But this is just I saw this hot take, and I have an answer to this. It was actually Kelly McLaughlin from the Dungeon Dudes that tweeted this out, and I was like, oh, that's so true. And I may put it up on screen, but the tweet was, while Kurtis is processing his thought, the tweet was, hot take, enchantment is the most evil school of magic. I'm paraphrasing. I think it was something like that. But I was like, ooh, that's so true, because I feel like necromancy gets a bad rap. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm just curious here.
So I think the thing you would say to, like, counteract expectations is like, well, it's obviously not necromancy, because everyone just thinks it's gonna be necromancy.
Right.
So I'm actually gonna do the hot take.
Okay.
I actually definitely think it is necromancy.
Ah, interesting. The hot take. The too hot take.
A hot take. My first thought was to actually go evocation.
Okay.
Because to me, that kind of has the most potential for just wanton destruction. Just utter chaotic destruction would be evocation.
Mm-hmm.
Enchantment is very interesting.
Just want to clarify, it's like we're not taking any certain spells right off the bat here. We can later in the discussion, but it's just kind of the general ideas of these magic of these magical schools. Just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, continue.
I definitely think that abjuration is like the goodest magic, if that makes sense.
The most good.
Because it's literally
yes, the goodest.
It's literally
the best boy.
It's only intended for self-defense and not even just self-defense, but defending against magics.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ones where it's classified as the protection school. Yeah.
I think you could go a few ways here. I understand why they're saying enchantment. And I think it's probably because, enchantment, you're controlling somebody's mind without their consent, essentially.
Exactly. Or altering how they feel about you. And you're enforcing your will on there. You're essentially taking away their free will.
It's basically a magic roofie. Like you're just sitting over there saying a few words, and then suddenly that person really likes you.
Mm-hmm.
Or just has to do what you say, depending on the spell.
Which is why I think it's like quote unquote the most evil, because it is putting your will over someone else. Dip actually had a very interesting answer.
Was it divination?
It was illusion.
Illusion?
Because, and here's what his reasoning. Now, we had a long conversation about this, and if any of you happen to know Dip out there, he very much is a very person that likes to think about these things, and so we had a pretty great conversation. So I don't want to put words in his mouth in the slightest. But essentially, what he kind of paraphrased that is illusion is tricking the mind to essentially you could present a situation to someone, and it could drive them insane. So, for example, you show them an illusion of maybe someone they loved, right? He used the example of the animated Witcher series on Netflix. I don't know if you ever watched that one. In that one, he was essentially tricked with an illusion, and he wound up thinking he was killing someone that was bad. And in that moment, it actually turned out to be someone that he loved, and he was tricked in it, and he killed someone he loved. So essentially, illusion can do that, but you can, it can show it to you over and over and over again to the point of like breaking a person and breaking their mind. And that's where he was going with it. Like that would be in his mind a very evil thing, because killing someone is wrong, but like breaking the mind of someone, that would be in his idea.
So that to me sounds like, we said we weren't really going to go into spells, but there I would say the illusion spell list is like 50-50. Spells meant to make other people think they're seeing something, and spells meant to just change the way you look or do something for you.
That's a fair point.
So I would honestly say that, if you believe falsely representing yourself to other people is evil, then those are all also bad.
Yeah.
But personally, if you look at like, it's basically just magic makeup, right? Like,
which is certainly not evil per se. Yeah, and that's totally true. And again, it kind of goes with the interpretation of how the person does it, right? Because obviously you can use these things for good. But that was just a very interesting take, and how I was looking at that is like essentially you could do that same thing with enchantment. You could show someone a loved one, and they potentially, or someone that they thought was evil, and they potentially go to kill that person, and they find out they were tricked. But an enchantment, you could actually have that loved one go try and kill that person. So it's like it's almost like a real situation that could happen then.
Here's something else I would say. Illusion, you could use those same exact spells to do great things. To make places look better, or cause people to see things that rally them or whatever. I feel like that's very much a neutral thing where illusion spells are much easier to use for good or bad. I don't feel that way about evocation spells. I feel like evocation spells are almost entirely only meant to be used as damage, to hurt things, to cause destruction in some way. You can't necessarily use evocation spells to build anything up, to make anything better. You can only use them to destroy bad things. That's the only good thing you can do with evocation spells.
That is a very interesting take. I like it.
I would say with necromancy, there's like healing spells and stuff like that. The thing I would say with necromancy, why it's still probably my actual pick for the most evil school, is all of the worst and most evil beings in Dungeons and Dragons are like necromancers, or completely use necromancy or any of that stuff. And maybe that's why it has a bad rap, of course. But, you look at like Orcus, Vecna, Liches, all of these people. These are all the biggest bads, the
people that are
worst.
Basically trying to cheat death, right? They're trying to get around that whole idea, right?
Well, but not
to try and live longer.
Not Orcus. Orcus is just a demon. He's just a demon lord. But
that's true.
But his realm is like undeath.
That's a very good point.
And so, I don't know. I think that kind of inherently means that it is tied to something evil. And
that's a very interesting point. Actually, tying it, because it's like you could potentially. The idea is you could probably trace necromancy back to this demon lord type of thing, right? So the origins of it are pretty evil. Interesting. I like your take.
To me, it's almost like blood magic in Dragon Age, right? It has inherent risks and inherent ties back to very bad things happening. That doesn't mean it can't be used for good, but it does mean that it is kind of inherently bad unless you work hard to make it work for good.
That's a great take. I like it. I like it a lot because the interesting thing about this, especially is since we're going through like the rune lords, how in Pathfinder those schools can get traced back to the rune lords, that essentially each school of magic was tied to an original sin, like that.
Except for divination.
Except for divination, exactly. So that was also very interesting that they would tie like certain sins with certain schools of magic. So it's fun to talk about. It's fun to think about, and obviously it always comes down to the person. But I just wanted to get your hot take because I thought that was a interesting perspective.
Actually, divination might be a contender for the most evil because that's all just like peeking in on people who don't know you're watching them. If that's not anti-consent, I don't know what is.
I mean, yes, that's true. But then changing their mind, what they think about you, I don't know. Like, I mean, we're not taking particular schools or particular spells, but dominate person and modify memory, I feel like are just
modify memory is probably the worst on that list. I think for sure. I think because one of the biggest things people always say is like, well, your past is your past and nobody can take that from you. You've made the memories you've made and nobody can do anything about that. But what if they could? That's what modify memory does, right? Like,
and usually, yeah, exactly. And usually
like your future you can't control. So if somebody makes you do something, then that's not your fault. But what if somebody makes you forget something you always knew and it changes you completely? right? What if somebody forgets makes you forget the lesson you learned that made you decide to do all of the good things that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. Almost the potential is endless because there's this. Okay, this could be potential spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3. This is more of a fan theory out there. I don't know how familiar you are with the Baldur's Gate 3, but Shadowheart in the show in the show, Shadowheart in the game. I'll probably put a timestamp on screen, so if you don't want any spoilers for the game, please skip ahead. But for the sake of this conversation, Shadowheart, there's a theory out there. She is currently, right now, in the game, she serves Shar, and she has lost her memories. Do you care? Do you actually care about this? Do you care about spoilers? Okay. She has lost her memory. Essentially, what Shar does is before sending you on a mission, she tells you the mission. She lets you keep that, obviously, those ideas in your head, but she takes away all the memories about you. So if you get captured, you can't give away any secrets because Shar is the goddess of secrets. So this is a way of protecting herself. But there's a theory out there that actually believe that Shadowheart was actually serving Shar's sister, Saloon, I believe is her name. Yeah, the goddess of the moon. And essentially what Shar did was captured her, took away her memories, made her believe that she was actually serving Shar, and has completely changed who she was, right? So it's like that, I mean, could be considered pretty dang evil because essentially you're taking away their personality and making you think completely different things about yourself.
Sure.
I don't know. I guess it comes down to what the person is intending.
If I was going to say, it's all about intentions with that. That's much more, to me, that very much seems much more like, again, a neutral thing, you know. If a hammer isn't evil, but if a person uses a hammer to smash somebody over the head, is the hammer evil? It's like, no, most of magic is literally just a tool, right? It depends on why you're using it, how you're using it, what you're using it for. I think the question here isn't which of these is inherently evil, it's which one is the most evil, right? That's the question. None of these are inherently evil. Magic is not inherently evil in D&D. It just depends on how you use it. I think the question is, which one of these schools is the easiest to do terrible things with? I think that's the question.
That's a great way to actually rephrase it.
Which of these schools most inherently leans towards doing bad things? Yeah, and I think it's necromancy strictly for the fact that, in my mind, evil is not just being bad. Evil is corruption, right? Evil is taking something that is neutral and corrupting it, neutral or good, and corrupting it towards bad. That's the true source of evil.
Yeah.
And necromancy is known for being a corrupting school of magic. When you go down that road, you tend to get corrupted to do terrible things or seek knowledge that's going to ruin you or any of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why that's still the pick for me.
That's great. That's great. We would love to know your thoughts down in the comments if you'd care to explain. Dip is currently our most our biggest fan right now. He always messaged me after I post it, and he's kidding me. So I apologize if I completely butchered your intention, Dip. Please let us know down in the comments what you really think, because you know it's just it was an interesting thought experiment, and I just like to hear what other people say, and I think that's a very good perspective, Kurtis. I love it.
Thanks.
Well, we'll be right back after this sponsor break.
Hello, back from our sponsor.
Kurtis wanted to talk about something, so he went to go grab it.
I went to go grab it.
And where I'm very excited. I have no idea what he's about to show.
So I've got this product. This is not a plug. This is not sponsored. This is nothing other than apparently like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know how long it's been now, was apparently the year of Kickstarters for me, because I've literally received like 6 Kickstarters that I completely forgot I kickstarted this year.
That's amazing. I definitely know that vote.
But this one is one that I actually was really, really looking forward to, and was actually kind of sad that it took this long to get to me, because one of the main reasons I ordered it was because it is meant to be a world-building tool. Meant to help you create the worlds that you want and flesh them out easier. It's called the Deck of Worlds.
Ooh, I have heard of this. Okay.
And it's by the guys who created the story engine. It's called the Deck of Worlds.
Very cool. I will put links down in the description if you're so inclined.
Yeah. You can go to deckofworlds.com to take a look at it. I think they're now doing post-Kickstarter orders. It was designed by Peter Chikowski.
It's a great name. Peter.
So basically the whole point of this system, right? It is a series of decks of cards, square cards, that is meant to help you kind of flesh out your world by giving you prompts for locations in your world, essentially.
Very cool. Okay.
So there's multiple types of cards, and you kind of pull them out in sequence so that you kind of add these ones to it in order, and you kind of stack them up.
Okay.
The cards are regions, landmarks, namesakes, origins, attributes, and advents, and that's in order of first to last that you pull.
Oh, that's really cool.
And so,
you know where my head went when you were talking about that? When you're homebrewing a world, how fun would it be? Just a thought experiment. How fun would it be when you sit down to like work with, like you have 4 players, and so when you sit down to make the character with each one, privately you have them draw a card, and you guys build something together that's about that character?
Well, so actually, one of the suggestions he gives in there is you can actually very easily cooperatively use this with somebody else to kind of cooperatively gain ideas and create something that's going to go into your world. So if you're at the very beginning stages of gameplay and you really want your characters to be tied in, you could literally, after they've started creating their characters, run through one of these sections with them and either create the place they're from, or create a place that only they know about, that they have a reason to visit. Stuff like that.
That would be cool. And so instead of something in the backstory, maybe it's like a destination they might, their character might want to go to.
Like if they've been told to go on some kind of vision quest by their god or something, you could create that with them. And create the place that they need to find, as if it's been burned into their brain by a vision, kind of a thing.
Like a vision or a dream of some kind. Oh man, that would be so cool. That's a great tool. I love that idea.
I'm just gonna run through a little thing here so you can see in the box.
Look at that!
All your little decks of different stuff. If
you want, you could take like video and send me that video if you want. So instead of just trying to hold it up to the camera later on in editing, I can.
This is more organic. I'll do it this way.
Okay.
So I pulled a region card, and it's called, and it's a valley. Okay, so it gives you a little thing right here. You can kind of
very
see that.
Cool.
It gives you a little picture to add even more. So then after that, you can pull 1 or 2 landmark cards and choose between them if you want. But I'm just going to pull 1 right now. Landmark card, and this gives you 2 options. So you can see that there's a rock or a vineyard, and so it's basically creating a landmark that is going to be in that region. So once that's done, I slip it together, like this, and I say, okay, there's a rock in this valley that's known as a landmark in that valley. Okay?
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
So then you grab a namesake card, and it gives you 4 options. So they kind of range from like going ahead of the rock or going after the rock. So you could say it's the rock that watches, or the rock of youth, or the winking rock, or the rock of sickles.
That's great, because now each region could potentially have some tied-in details that you could even be more creative with. I love that.
I'm going to stick under this the rock that watches. That'll be the name of the rock. Okay, so that's the landmark.
This is all organic. Kurtis is doing this now.
This is actually happening. These are all shuffled. I'm not doing this. So then you pick an origin card, and this kind of gives you, like it says, origins, and that gives you another 4 things. Okay, and so we've got that it was created or given as a gift. It was shaped by tectonic activity. It was a former military superpower, or it was founded by a repentant criminal. So I'm going to say that it was created or given as a gift. Let's try that out. We'll see how that goes.
That's cool. I also just love the idea of being creative with it and just using the words and like twisting them. You know, so you just to be different, you could be like, okay, it's a hero turned criminal instead of vice versa or something. I don't know. I like that.
So then you take 1 or 2 attribute cards. The only reason you would take more than 1 is just to have more options. I kind of like the restriction of only taking 1 at a time per place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it makes you use your brain a little more to kind of figure things out. So this one gives you another 4 options. And it says it can be known for fashion accessories. It could be that their gender expectations are unfamiliar to outsiders. It could be that it's an abundant energy source, or it could be that it's a habitat of an apex predator.
Interesting.
And I'm going to put that one. I'm going to put that it's a habitat of an apex predator. That sounds cool.
Ooh.
And then you grab an advent card. And these give you 2 options, and these are basically cards that give you prompts for what might be going on in that area.
Okay.
And in the secondary writing, it kind of gives you like further hints towards what it could be. So it could say the fate of a political prisoner is dividing the population of this valley. Or a new commune is setting up without permission in this valley. And I'm going to put that one. A new commune is setting up without permission. So now we have a valley who has a landmark of a rock. And that rock was created or given as a gift. And this valley is the habitat of an apex predator. But a commune is setting up in this valley without permission. So just based off of that, this is literally happening right now. I promise you, this is not like one of those infomercials where I'm like, I had this all prepared ahead of time. Now in the oven, I'm going to pull out what we just prepared. No.
So Kurtis literally had to run and grab it.
So I'm coming up with this right now. Let's say this valley is home to a dragon. Okay? Mm-hmm. And let's say that that's why it's the habitat of an apex predator. Okay? It's the home of a... let's say a blue dragon, because it's a valley. That sounds good.
That sounds great.
And the gift of the giant rock here, the giant rock was given to this blue dragon because dragons love treasure. It was given to the dragon so that people could pass through this valley without having to worry about the dragon hurting them, right? That's why it's called the rock that watches. If you could see the rock and the rock is watching over you, you know you're safe from the dragon. But there's now a commune of draconic worshippers that are setting up in this valley without permission from the dragon, and they're not passing through anymore. They're staying. So now this has dangers of breaking that contract with the dragon so that it can just go on a rampage and kill whatever it wants. That's why your party is sent here, so that they can figure out why this commune's here, try to get them to close up shop and leave so that the dragon doesn't kill passersby. Mm-hmm. Boom.
Literally, it's like that took like what, 5-10 minutes?
Like 10 minutes max. And that's a whole adventure that could take like five sessions.
Exactly. You know, it also would be really cool about.
Not only that, it could literally just be a place on your map. You know, it's just a place, and it's just going on.
If the party has to be traveling through this valley, it's something that they could potentially stumble across. So, I also really like the idea of, like, if you were to do that with your player, if you're the dungeon master and you do that with the player, I love that idea because now you're building it with them. So maybe you can hopefully avoid the in-session moment of, like, when the player has to explain something about their goal or about their homeland or whatever it happens to be. They don't have to look at a dungeon master and awkwardly go, so what's it like over there? Yeah, dungeon master. So now it's like you created it together. It's a little bit more input in your mind, but also just a great tool to help you come up with a quick one-shot.
And obviously it leaves a lot of details out, but that's the point, right? It's meant to be a leaping off point. It's meant to give you that basis. Like, I had to connect all those dots myself. It didn't connect the dots for me. The dragon was not part of the picture, but that's what I took Apex Predator to mean, and so that connected why the rock is there and why it's called the rock that watch. It creates all these dots that you can then make a constellation out of, you know? Yeah,
exactly. That's a great way to put it. And it, you know, I love tools like that because the beauty about art in general and writing is that when you're supposed to put your own fingerprint, there's no one that's going to, like, give you the answers, but they can give you ideas to go off. If you were to also give me that same thing, I'm sure I can come up with something completely different.
Yeah,
right?
and
I love that idea.
So it actually gives you, it gives you all sorts of great help in this workbook, but it gives you more jumping off points to where it actually tells you you can create your world map with this tool.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can take it, and so it gives like a little thing right here. You can take a certain amount of the region cards and just draw a certain amount of region cards. Mm-hmm. And then decide, okay, there's a city, I'm going to put that there. There's a mountain, I'm going to put that there. There's a town, I'm going to put that there. There's a river, I'm going to put that there. And you can create
really cool.
in this little section of your table a world map and actually place these things where they are going to be on your map. And then you can just take that and sort of draw your continent around it. You know, you can make...
so cool.
You could make one big city that has 3 separate sections in it, or you can make a continent that has 12 sections in it, or you can make an entire world with multiple continents that has 28 different cards on it, right? You could just kind of expand this and just pull cards for each of them and go, okay, that's what that place is, and pull cards for this one and go, okay, that's what that one is, and just take notes on it all. I was doing that on my table earlier, and it was very super fun. Gave me a lot of really cool ideas.
I could totally just see taking an afternoon and just having some fun for sure. I also like pairing that up with like a game like The Quiet Year would be really fun too.
Well, and that's what I did. You know, I actually took my main continent and I pulled out all of the region cards that I knew I actually needed because I've built out my continent. So I know there's a mountain here. I know there's a forest here. I know there's a city here, 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 and here. So I pulled out a mountain card, a forest card, and 4 city cards, and a desert card, and I set them all on the table where they will be on my map. And then I just started pulling cards for each one of them to give them more depth because I didn't have any big ideas on what any of these places would actually contain. Or anything like that. And so it really helped me just add depth and build out places that I haven't even thought about yet.
That's so cool.
Gave me ideas about them. It's very, very fun.
So cool. I love it. Well, we'll put the link down in the description if you guys are curious about it. I love stuff like that. That was usually what kind of, you know, when I taught the writing club, or the creative writing club, I was looking for stuff like that all the time to just try and help spur creativity. And also, especially when you're starting out, sometimes you can either go one of 2 ways. You either hit writer's block, you don't know what to start, or you have so many ideas, you have no idea where to start, and you just get very jumbled, and you're in 17 different places. The stuff like that helps you either get started or help focus your mind, and I think that's what I love about stuff like that. That's great.
And that's the thing too. I think he kind of built it around the idea of being for role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
But he adds in that little workbook that you could use this for book, like a book that you're writing. If you're building a world for a book series you're writing, you could use it for tabletop RPGs. You could use it for a video game world you're trying to write. Like, you could use it for any world building.
That's great.
There's actually even like little expansion decks that add extra options for like different genres or different types of areas. There's like expansion decks for like desert and Arctic and like island nation type places.
Mm-hmm.
There's expansion decks for fantasy, sci-fi, and horror settings.
Horror.
Yes, horror. And there's even expansion decks that like provide extra types of cards. Like there's an expansion deck. There's an expansion deck that is called Heroes Quests and Fool's Errands, and it's literally just adventure prompts on cards. So cool. you could shuffle through those and then pull out an adventure prompt and throw it on one of your places and go, that adventure, they can find it if they travel there.
Very
and
cool.
This is the leaping off point, and it could just be anywhere from like a one shot idea to, you know, something that's going to take 6 sessions, you know.
Yeah. Or something that'll be forever in your homebrew.
Yeah, that they just never find, and oh well.
Yeah, you just hold on to the notes, and
they'll hear about it
one
later.
day. Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Kurtis, for sharing that. That's great.
Enough about me and my shameless plugs. Tell me about Jake. Enough about me, okay? We're moving on. I could talk about me and the things I love all day, but you know, let's focus on you for a little bit.
Okay.
Let's
well,
talk.
If you're sure.
Let's talk. You know, I mean, be brief, but let's talk about. Let's talk about your game you've been playing.
First and foremost, I love doing this podcast with you. Yes. So when last we left off, and lucky for me, I did just edit the one where I talk about it. So I did kind of learn exactly where it's
fresh in your mind.
Yeah, it's kind of pretty fresh. The last I left off was on a lot of, if you recall, Kurtis, we had stormed the Pale Tower. We had made it here. We got in via disguises, and then a fight immediately broke out. We got to these platforms that are essentially like teleportation devices. You say passphrases, and something that Dip immediately texted me about that I'm so like, gosh dang it, I forgot to mention, where we found the passphrases from was an adorable guy who is a fae creature. His name was Hatch. I have a picture of him.
Hatch?
Because Hatch, like Hatch chili, you know?
Uh-huh.
Hatch.
Nobody else is going to know, but I know.
Yeah. That was good.
I know what you mean.
So Nadia actually rescued this fae creature from the Pale Tower. The Hatch used to work there. He wound up leaving because of reasons that I can't quite really remember because it's been quite a while.
Probably just wasn't getting paid enough.
Well, I think it was more than that. But regardless,
disagreement with the
boss. Probably something along those lines because the boss was evil. I do want to show you the picture though, and I'm going to put it up on screen.
Oh, he's a little gnome.
He's a little gnome fellow, but he's actually tiny.
He's tiny.
Because
is that a
that's
real
a wooden
size spoon? Is that like
a real size
stirring
spoon.
size spoon or like an eating size spoon?
And I believe it's like an eating size spoon.
Holy cow! So he's like this big.
Yeah. Do you see on his hat?
Oh, it's a button. Oh my gosh.
It's a little button. I'm definitely going to put that on screen because
you've all now been gnomed.
There it is. But he used to work at the Pell Tower. It was kind of a sad. We learned that Hatch was actually the one that was with Nadia's daughter, that was telling Nadia's daughter jokes. Nadia's daughter wound up repeating that joke later on. That's what caused the
fault.
It's his fault. So he felt personally responsible. It was pretty sad. So he felt pretty responsible for what happened.
Rough.
So he gave us passphrases. So that's how we're able to get through the tower.
Okay.
We made it up to the second floor. We cleared out that area. We fought the captain of the guard, and we happened upon the creature that looked. I say creature, because we learned that the person that was what looked like the noblewoman that we had previously met was actually a doppelganger.
Knew it. Actually, we thought it was the opposite, huh? We thought she was the real one, and the one you had met before was the doppelganger.
I had a lot of theories that it was like maybe the other one was a doppelganger and this is the actual one, but we were okay. It was like, okay, good. We're like, we didn't send a doppelganger to go back to the family stead, but it still leaves the potential for all those theories. We don't really know for sure.
Now you know that is kind of what they were doing, though.
It's yes,
or at least what they were
my
planning.
Character, exactly, something along those lines. My character has yet to really dive deep into the Taldor notes that he has. So we'll get there when we get there. But
we get there when we get there.
We get there when we get there. We continue on, saying another passphrase, finding some stuff. We go up to this next area on the map, and it was a kind of more balcony-like area. Really cool design. Like it was basically ice everywhere, and it was just on this balcony that was open. So like we're on pretty high up there on the tower at this point. There we met a she wasn't human. I'll put the character art up. She was another guard of some kind, but she was up there with being a little bit more of the nobility, but she wasn't the normal people that we've seen. A lot of the people up here in this Winterland are human. You don't really see a lot of different types of races. I believe the other one that's actually mostly here might be gnomes. So it's pretty limited on races. You don't really see many exotic ones. So this was an exotic creature that we found. And she fought us. We fought her. This was also like right when we leveled up to level 4. So we got Dara finally got some damaging spells. I had no damaging spells up to this point. So I finally got Vicious Mockery, and I took Dissonant Whispers.
Bold decision.
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
All the way to level 3 using a sling?
I used a sling, yeah, which actually I was doing some pretty good damage with it, but it does not compare to 3d6 damage though of Dissonant Whispers. So, which is actually really funny because I think I've used it twice and I've rolled pretty good on those Dissonant Whisper damage.
Do you still not have any damaging cantrips?
I took Vicious Mockery.
Okay.
At level 4, so I have it. The classic bard thing. It was just one of those things of like, I feel like my character just he's traveling and he sticks with people, and he acts and performs and then he moves on. He had really no reason to use his words to hurt anybody. He's proficient with a dagger, so he knows how to use a dagger, and he has a sling that he uses. So it's not like he doesn't know how to defend himself, but he's always been with a group of people. So in my head, he's never really been by himself except for like a few rare nights type of thing, or those in between days when he's traveling from one group to another group or one town to another town or something like that.
Yeah.
He likes to travel with people.
Of course.
Yeah, so that this fight actually went pretty quickly because we kind of leveled up, so we all got some juice back because of how the leveling up works mid dungeon, basically. And we fought her, and then we moved on to the next place, and the next one we went to actually was more inside a tower, and this is where we found the apprentice of the witch that we are after. And we had some words of exchange. He basically said that the witch is not here. So that was quite actually not a bad thing, because he kind of kicked our butts. He had this spell. I believe it's like a Pathfinder thing, because I didn't really recognize it, or maybe Dip was flavoring it a little bit differently. But up above, there were like these ice shards, and he would cast this spell, and these ice shards would fall on us. So it would do piercing damage, or I think it actually was bludgeoning damage, and then cold damage. So it was pretty rough, and we had to do dex saves, and we would take half damage.
It might be like a reflavored like hail spell or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He was pretty powerful. He was a glass cannon. Because luckily our fighter and our barbarian got right up to him, and then mostly we were hanging back. It was a circular room. There weren't really any areas that we could like dodge into, so it was kind of, the spellcasters either had to kind of stay in the room or like try and open up a door and like slip into a door. So it was a pretty quick combat. Even though we took a lot of damage, it didn't last very long.
So that sounds like Ice Storm, which is a fourth level spell.
Okay.
That causes a 20-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder of rock hard ice to fall to the ground, and each creature must make a dex save, or they take 2d8 bludgeoning and 46 cold damage.
That's probably what it was. Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar, and it was rough.
And then the ground that it affects turns into difficult terrain.
Becomes difficult. Yes. So that's exactly what it was, because that's very important of what happens. So basically, it gets to the point where he casts a spell, and and I probably should do this because I don't think I have yet. There are 4 players in the party. There is a wizard played by our friend Ross. There is myself, who's the bard. There's the barbarian, who's played by our friend Ethan, and then there is Nixia, who is played by my wife Sarah. So just there we go. I'll clip it and we'll anyway. So that's there's 4 members here. Myself and Ross, the wizard, we go down when he casts that spell. It falls on us because it does a lot of damage, and we failed our dex saves. Nixia, from what I remember, Nixia had to basically she was in this place of does she like disengage and go help us, or does she try and do damage? It was in this rough spot, and actually Dip was doing some calculations because he was going to cast that spell and run towards the platform to teleport out. It was a pretty brutal one, but because of that difficult terrain, he got screwed over by his own spell. So he couldn't disengage, and then make it all the way to the spell, because I believe the platform was like 30 feet away. So he would have made it halfway, or he would have had to use his action to dash to get there.
Yes.
So he basically, knowing that, he did the spell one last time. But luckily, the barbarian was able to take him out. Nixia was incredibly hurt, but it was her turn, and she ran over to myself, used one of my health potions, which are actually precious few in this campaign. Used one of my health potions, got me up, and then I was able to make it over to Ross's character, his character's name is Sorian, got him up. Luckily, that the healing word's a bonus action because I had to use my action to get to him, or he was just in my range for difficult terrain to get to him, so I was able to use my action to dig him up, and then bonus action got him back up. So it was quite a fight, and it was really funny because that was where we ended, and for a whole week we didn't catch that he had said the witch wasn't there. So for like a week we were like,
what are we gonna do with this witch if that's just an apprentice?
Yeah, exactly. So my character gets Sorian back up, and we're like, I'm at like, I think I'm at like, I'm at 9 hit points, and Sorian's at 8 hit points. That was it. Oh. And so the apprentice had a familiar with him. It was a goat, and it was pretty hilarious.
What a choice.
Exactly. It was a goat. And he did some damage to our barbarian. He kept headbutting him and like almost knocking him down. It was really funny. We all had a great laugh about it. But when the apprentice died, the goat was still there. So our barbarian picked him up and was just like walking over to us. It was like, do you guys want to have goat tonight? Nixia was like, okay. And I believe it was Nixia, kills the goat. The goat explodes in ice shards and did 7 damage to us because he had walked over to us.
Wow. So the goat had like its own mine failsafe in it?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So I got down, if you recall, I was at 9 hit points. That brought me down to 2. And Sorian was at 8 hit points, so that brought him down to 1.
That would be such a cool warlock invocation for like Pact of the Chain. If you have Pact of the Chain, which is like all based around having a super cool familiar, dude. And then like if one of your warlock invocations is that if an enemy defeats your familiar, it explodes into damage. That's such a cool warlock invocation.
And that would also probably help with those things of like, because you're always taking those familiars like Owl that does flyby, right? Yeah. So you could take something else that is like, or you could destroy it.
Because one of the other warlock invocations for Pact of the Chain is you can actually your familiar can actually like attack and do stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas normally, I mean, obviously, I think Pathfinder familiars are very, very, very different.
Yeah, they you can actually, I think, equip them with stuff, and they give you bonuses to perceptions and.
But warlock familiar is the only way you can have a familiar that actually gets to use that animal's like attacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because normally your familiar can't use the attack action.
Basically, almost like being like casting Armor of Agathist on your familiar or something like that.
Yeah, I
like that idea.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. We'll think about it more. Yeah. Well, so we did get there, and Dip did remind us and that the witch wasn't there. So we all took a big, heavy breath of relief because we were all like, we can't, in that condition, like Nixia was really hurt. Our barbarian was okay.
Yeah, you guys are all on the edge of death, basically.
Exactly. I think I had 1 spell slot left, but I was out of Bardic Inspiration, you know. I don't know where Sorian was at, but it was rough.
So I just got to say real quick, I finally took my like level in Wizard and stuff like we were talking about, and we've had a couple of sessions now since I've taken my level in Wizard, and I'm like, I forgot how much like work and thought really goes into like, what spell am I going to use today at these low levels? Because it's like I get
That's a
2.
very good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, which one of these 6 for me? Which one of these 6 spells that I have access to am I going to use today? Like
exactly, because especially with the tough. Like you don't get them back till a long rest.
Yeah, it's
that's why I always have a hard time multi-classing when I am a spellcaster.
Yeah,
because I hate losing out on those spell slots. So yeah, that is something.
The thing that makes it a little easier with Wizard is you get the the thing where on a short rest you can get a certain amount of slots back.
Yeah, arcane recovery. Yep. Yeah, that's very nice. It's basically what our wizard is able to do. And one more level, and I get my bardic inspiration on back on short rest, so that'll be nice. But anyway, in this room, after he has defeated, if you all recall, part of what the Black Rider had sent us to do, I actually don't know if I mentioned this. Our main goal is to go free Baba Yaga's hut, but part of it was also to shut down the portals to keep them from entering in the rest of the world.
Right.
In this room, and I'm trying to also just remember how Dip described it. Essentially, it was like a globe, and kind of the in this room. Can't remember if it was by the cauldron, further back in the room, or in the center. I believe it was by the cauldron, but I could be wrong in that. Anyway, there was essentially a globe, and on it were like these connections all about it. It's basically the world, with essentially these threads of the portals all about. And with I believe a natural 20 on our wizard was able to basically decipher this. Essentially, he figured out, reading it, understanding it, he basically figured out how to shut down the portal that was the one that was leading to Teldor, where we all came from. And Dip gave him a choice, which was really interesting. Essentially, one way was kind of almost using the tower itself and understanding the understanding of it to sever the connection. So kind of almost using your intelligence, I guess you could say, or maybe more wisdom to kind of feel through it and through magical means sever that connection. Or he could channel a spell into it and essentially overload that connection and destroy it.
Oh, okay. So it's either use finesse and your intelligence and snip the connection, or use pure arcane power and just blow it up.
And blow it up.
So it's like either I'm gonna snip the bomb so that it doesn't blow up in the first place, or I'm gonna go set it in a hole with a bunch of C4 and then run away and blow it up so that it can't be used.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool choice, and how he presented it. Dip did a good way of how presenting it, because he didn't just say it's like make a wisdom or intelligence check or a constitution check. It was basically like he just worded it in this ways of how would your character go about this. And in true wizard fashion and in true Saurian fashion, he chose to channel a spell into it. He had to use a specific school. I believe it was conjuration that he had to channel into into this globe. And he had to make a constitution saving throw to basically withhold himself and to overpower essentially the magics here.
Sure.
Because it was almost like he was overcoming the witch's magic, right? Yeah. With his own magic. And so it was kind of a cool way of doing that. He rolled a natural 19 nice. Plus some stuff. And I gave him my last so I do remember giving him one more bardic inspiration. So I may had one more left on that one. And he rolled a 1. And people have consistently have not rolled above a 2 on my bardic inspiration. I've been very sad about it.
You just gotta get better. Get more inspiring.
Level 4, right?
Yep.
And he succeeded. Dip explained it very well. It basically took a lot out of him. He was sweating profusely, veins. It was really kind of fun because our Bardian kind of is like, it's like,
you're barbarian.
Did I say bard? Excuse me.
You said Bardian, which is the greatest word I've ever heard.
You know, when you're a bard and multi-class into barbarian, Bardian, I like it. When he did that, the barbarian made a comment about like, you haven't lifted anything. What are you talking about? And Saurian looks at him and laughs and says, "My friend, I have lifted this tower." And I was just like, ooh, that was a good one line. I loved it. But with that, we basically left. We searched the rooms. We found a few more things. Lots of loot. We looted the witch's room and the vault that was also associated with her room. Our barbarian got cursed by a trap in there because an ice statue was in the vault, and the moment that you stepped into the vault, it shouted a curse at him, and he lost 4 to his constitution.
Oh wow!
It was a rough one.
That's rough for a barbarian. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. It was rough. Later, we did learn that it was just a day curse, so it lasted 24 hours.
Okay.
But at the time, we were like, "Oh God, buddy!" Because for a barbarian, that also takes away your AC too.
Your AC it was and at that
hit
point,
points, yeah.
That's what 4 times 4 hit points.
Yeah. So it was 8. 16?
16.
8?
Should be 16.
Yeah. It was a big hit for him.
No, it should be 8 because every 2 constitution is 1 hit point. So, yes, 8 hit points.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it was a big hit. But luckily we were able to get some great loot. This was a looting session. And we were all ready to leave. Our passphrase didn't work because we didn't get a passphrase for the witches area. Luckily, we had found 4 potions of Featherfall, and we leapt from the tower, drinking the. Or we found 3 of them actually. And so someone had to carry someone down. And in true. Oh, that's right. No, we had 3. Saurian, the barbarian took me down, so I held on to the barbarian and he drank the potion and fell. And then
Nice.
Nixia held on to Saurian and jumped off. So we do have 1 Featherfall potion left.
Hey, that's called conservation. That's great.
Yes. The really fun thing, and I will end it here, that Dip explained to us, if that wizard had got away, he would have ran back to the courtyard where we all featherfalled down. And in the courtyard, where we all entered in and fought the guards right at the beginning, there was a statue of a dragon in the courtyard. And if that wizard had got away, that scroll, which Saurian now has this scroll, the apprentice had a scroll of animate object. And he would have got to the courtyard and animate object on the dragon, and we would have also fought a stone dragon. But luckily, that did not happen. But
Yes.
He all told us that at the end of that session. I was like, oh, that would have been really interesting.
Yeah. That would have been rough.
Yeah, it would have been rough. But it was very fun. Nadia was still in the courtyard. She was waiting for us, and we all fled back to Wellsby. And the next session we did a lot of role plays, but we'll get into that next time on the Backyard Tabletop. I know we went a little bit over today.
Well, with me running out and our intro fiascos, we're still at right around an hour.
Thank you so much. If you are still watching this, I very much appreciate you. I cannot speak for Kurtis, but I'm sure he appreciates you.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you. I appreciate you. Again, I am Jacob.
And I'm Kurtis. And this is the Disney Channel.
I totally thought you were going to say this is pod racing.
and this is pod racing.
Pod racing. That's how we're going to end all the podcasts now. We're just and this, and then together we're going to shout is pod.
It's pod race. All right. Anyway,
have a good one, everyone.
Racing. Good night.
I believe this is coming out definitely in the new year. So happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for coming along.
Yep. Yeah, pretty soon here, we're actually going to be playing Curse of Strahd, and I'm going to be so excited.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
Maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Okay, here we go. Bye.
We gotta get better at our outros.
We'll get there.